Everybody, thanks for all the engagement. I want to have this video focused on building relationships of trust. When you're getting offline and having conversations face to face, I think for some people, they might not have been taught how to have good conversations, or maybe they're an introvert and they want to be able to get outside of that comfort zone and be able to get to know other people. So number one, first thing to always remember is to be genuine, be you, be sincere. So in other words, if you like to play video games or you like to, computer programmer, you're an engineer, you're analytical, don't pretend like you aren't that. And that, because it's totally fine. I don't think everybody needs to be introvert and have a desire to do public speaking. You should feel comfortable in your own skin. And when you're engaging with other people, number one is if you keep in the forefront of your mind that you want to know more about that individual, that you treat them like a book, that you want to ask them questions, that you really do listen, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth, using that ratio. So you're asking them a lot of good questions. You're actually listening to their answers. You want to know more about them. And so one of the things in order to build a relationship with trust is to identify those things that you have similarities with. You're trying to see if maybe you went to the same high school, maybe you grew up in a familiar family setting, maybe you have the same hobbies, maybe you like the same movies. And so the more questions that you ask and listen, the more that you're able to identify what you're similar about. The other thing to recognize is that you don't want it to come across as an interrogation. So as people share of themselves, share something of yourself. And so oftentimes if I just meet someone, it's, hi, I'm Sherman, and what's your name? They tell me their name. Let's say it's Kathy. Kathy, nice to meet you. Love like your hair. Enjoy the, like your shoes. Maybe I can give a compliment. Make sure it's sincere. So don't be giving out compliments. Be like, giving them out like pennies. There's no value when you just give out compliments and there's no sincerity there. You may as well just kept the compliment. Then as you continue the conversation, you might want to ask what they do professionally. And then as they're talking, actually be listening. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Then as you're listening, you can have a follow-up question, or you can recap what they said to you. If it was a long-winded conversation about what they do, or it was a little bit more of a longer explanation, you can recognize what they said by recapping it in your own words. Don't be repetitive. And then expressing yourself what you do in regards to that question. So if I ask Kathy, so what do you do professionally? And she goes on and tells me how she, works at a nursing home and what she does over there and who she works with a little bit. I'll say, oh, so it sounds like you really enjoy your job. And at that point, there's a pause because she might want to say a little bit more, or she might give me an opportunity to say, oh, what do you do? And then I can explain to her professionally what I do. Then as the conversation continues to progress, I can ask questions based on, what does she like to do? What does she do on the weekend when she's not working so hard to help other people at the nursing home or the assisted living facility? And the conversation starts to build. One question that people often say is, how do I make sure that it's not a boring conversation? Number one is if you're really interested in that other person, it shouldn't be a boring conversation because you really want to know what makes them unique. You really want to know what makes them tick. You really want to understand their mindset and their philosophy towards life, towards their profession, and towards their ultimate career. And as you build these relationships of trust, that's ultimately what you're trying to really hone in at, is gaining the trust to find similarities, 6 to 7 similarities that you have between the two of you, and it'll increase that overall trust. The other thing to recognize when it comes to relationship is as you give more of yourself, and in this case, as you ask more questions and really truly listen, then what's going to happen is they're going to think that you're more interested in them, and it's going to build a good relationship. When you start having relationships that you feel that you're giving too much of yourself, or someone else is giving too much of themselves, they're not going to find that relationship worth value. So if you keep in mind of always being a giver and have the idea that you're more concerned about their life and what they're interested in, you're going to find yourself with a lot more tangible and much more close relationships. Hope this is a benefit to you. If you have any further questions about how to build relationships, feel free to ask. Have a fantastic day.